Okay, at this point, just to recap, month month 1, 2, 3, and 4, it's been a series of like an accordion of it's expanding and contracting on medical supplies, food, the shelter, emotions, unsurety, confusion. You got to think about it now, though. We're having panic globally across the entire world. 4 billion people that have access to wealth, credit cards. They're working. They're adults. They have some form of wealth that they can buy the resources they need, and all these people all at once are being told that to go home, buy a month's supply of food, buy take a few weeks off. Especially all these people, the 4 billion roughly people, are living month to month. They don't have a lot of savings. They don't have a lot of food and storage. So when they have to go out, when they're spending the credit cards, they're spending other forms of money that they don't have. So now what's happening is the resources that have been stored up in the local area are used up at the end of month 4. And so locally, maybe month 3, month 4, we start to ask the state or the federal level for help, because they classify themselves as an emergency, which will send in the guard, and you will probably start seeing that very soon if it hasn't started already, or even conversations around that. And today is March 25th.
At the direction of General Tim Gowan, today 1,000 Maryland National Guard soldiers and airmen have been fully activated, and another 1,200 guardsmen are currently on enhanced readiness.
The first 2 units actually that I called up were our area support medical companies, and while they don't have the full complement of medical capability, because a lot of them, like me, are traditional guardsmen where they have civilian jobs as well. So a lot of them are actually providers, and they're out in hospitals and doing their civilian jobs, and we don't want to take them away from that. But I still have a lot of other capabilities, things like medics and administrative folks that have a pretty good role to play in this as well. One of the things that the governor mentioned was the distribution of the strategic national stockpile mission, particularly personal protective equipment, where that's always been a standing mission for us, and we're going to execute that in the coming days.
At this point, though, we're talking about into month 4, beginning of month 5. On this local level, when they start asking the state for help, the state isn't going to be able to help all the counties. So what's going to happen is the state's going to have to allocate whatever resources that they have, and then they're going to ask the federal level for help. And the federal level, once again, is going to have to pick the states and the cities and the people of who to help. At this point, there's going to be, if worst case scenario, there's going to be even more. What do you guys think?
Even more of sickness going around.
Stella?
Panic.
There's going to be even more panic. Why? Is because everyone's going to be blaming Trump, or blaming the state, or blaming someone. Why isn't help coming? But the problem with that is that the entire United States, the entire world, is all spending money and buying the same tangible goods and assets. Although on month 5, what's going to be a problem around this is that states are going to begin to blame the federal level for not having the resources they need to get through this emergency. And states that have already, it's either going to go 2 ways. Either we're going to pull together and become and be united even further, or what's going to happen is we're going to begin to have some level of division in states, where they're going to begin further, like Texas is going to say, you know what, You know what, feds? I don't really want to give my resources to California. They have nothing to do with me. No, I am refusing your order to take my resources from my state, from my people, which may need them one day, and send them over to California. Just because of the request of sharing of resources isn't being fulfilled, we might see a civil, some level of talk of civil war break out, and further going from a rioting on a local level to a civil war on the state level. Do you guys have any questions around that?
How would a civil war start?
Well, a civil war will start by one state getting upset with the other state and different policies or agreements happening. Most likely it's going to be from resources. So let's say a resource-rich state decides to not share their resources with another state upon request from the federal level. Normally they allow commerce to just handle it. And commerce is businesses to sell to other businesses and states to sell to other states. But when there's an emergency, that responsibility gets taken over normally by the federal level. So the feds can tell one state, hey, you need to give this water to this state. You need to give this electricity to this state. And that state, at that point, either gives up the resources or disobeys the order. And now we begin to have one state keep their resources while the other state needs those resources. But when you have 50 million people, let's say in California, needing a resource, and a lot of people in California have guns, and then let's say the state right next to them has what they need, what do you think is going to happen?
Why didn't they just talk to the other state that's next to them that has
They
what
did.
need?
And one state said, hey, that's your problem. You need that. That's your problem. That's not our problem. You stay over there. We're going to stay over here. We're going to keep what we have. You need to figure out your own problem. What do you think would happen?
A war?
Well, let's ask you guys. Let's just ask you two. Let's say Starla has all the food she needs to eat for a week, and River, she saved her money because you guys have to save your own money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so she saved her money and she spent her money on food for a week, but you went and spent your money on video games and thinking that, oh, I want to play video games for the week while I'm out of school or this whole thing. Then you start getting hungry and you say, Starla, can I have some food? And she says, let's say you say no, and then she says, come on, I'll let you play video games. And then she says, well, okay, I'll give you a little bit of food to play video games for a certain amount of time. But then after time, she don't want to play video games anymore. Then what do you have to trade? Let's say you have nothing to trade besides your video games. So you're still hungry though. Well, what are you going to do now?
Trade with her?
You have nothing to trade. She doesn't want anything you have.
Is there an answer you're looking for?
No, I'm asking you. I want you to think about what you would do. What would you do, in that situation? You're hungry, and every day you're getting more hungry, and more hungry, and let's say you even have a little dog, so the dog's getting even more hungry. And she has a dog, and they're both eating just fine, right in front of you.
I would feed his dog.
Let's say you don't want to feed his dog.
I would.
Okay, but let's say you don't, okay? This is a real emergency, okay?
I'd feed it little bites every now and then.
Okay, because you're kind, and you're
Oh, well, she's kind, so
Democrat.
maybe she'd just give me some.
You're a Democrat, huh?
You just said she was kind, so maybe she would give me some for
Oh.
free.
Maybe.
Okay, let's say you do give half your food away, and now you're down to 3 days of food versus a week.
Yeah.
For 3.5, but okay.
And at the end of the day, if that's what happened, it goes back into who knows how we're going to solve this problem as a society. Are we going to teach a man how to fish, or are we going to give a man how to fish? If we just give food to people, they don't ever learn new skills. They never
Can't teach him
Oh.
how to shop.
Well, at the end of the day, that's the point behind these classes, is to challenge your guys' thought process and challenge our thought process to figure out how we're going to solve these problems, how we're going to work with our neighbors. Like, and we don't have to be a state. It could just be our local neighbor that runs out of food and needs some food. Well, he has 3-4 kids. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe I don't share any food. Maybe I share food with him, and then he thinks, and then he runs out in a couple days, and he thinks, listen, they got all kinds of food. You know, there's so much paranoia that can happen, that a lot of people, we don't know how we're going to solve the problem. You know, these are all problems that are going to be happening in the next couple weeks, months, or everything goes back to normal within 30 or 45 days, which I'm hoping. Can you kind of see why we could have civil war?
Yeah.
Okay, local cities can't help each other, and the state can't help the local cities because all the local cities are asking for help, and the federal government can't help the states because all the states are asking for help, and other countries can't help a specific country because all the countries are asking for help. What do you think is going to happen on a global level?
Nobody will get help, and they won't get what they need.
And which leads to what?
More sickness?
Okay.
Or war?
Good job, Starla. Great job. Proud of you. This is where month, and am I talking about month? Am I talking about like, wow, like Mark, you really think war can break out in only 6 months? 100%. There is a really great video about how to start a movement. I actually like to use the same video a lot of times to explain a lot of innovation, or even the law of panic, and that's what I like to call it, the law of panic, where everything can go from just a little start to mass confusion, and it can stir up and die down within only a few minutes. And if you haven't seen this video, I can't play it because of copyright issues with YouTube. I'm going to put a link down below. If you have not watched that video, please watch it. It's only a 3-minute video, but it can show you how fast a little flame can start into a massive wildfire and completely die off in only 3 minutes. So, same situation. The sad thing about it is that, go ahead, River.
So if you're saying that is an example, then could the war die down fast if it does happen?
Absolutely. What could stop? Starla, it's okay. It's okay. What can stop the entire world from war immediately?
Helping?
Okay,
I don't know,
absolutely.
more food?
Everyone kind of realizing. Everyone kind of realizing the direction we're headed is totally the wrong direction, and we need to change something. Yes, that is 100% something that can happen. What's another thing that can happen? How do you stop the war?
If more resources leave, like even whatever you need for war, I guess, because I mean they're gonna run out because they can't have help, and then they can't fight anymore.
So, worldwide, what could stop a war is either everyone worldwide agreeing that this is a mass panic and it needs to stop, and that like the music stops at the end of the song. Or what can also stop the war is actually the release of nuclear bombs. All out war, and all out war. You know.
So you're saying that only one country, the one good way couldn't come out of it, and one bad way, in which one country can win, or in which all of the countries can go to peace?
Everything hits a certain peak of climax, right?
Yeah.
And normally you can die down that energy by, like, if there's a large wildfire, what they do is they start another fire in different areas to burn out the fuel to the flame, so it can't get worse. And so what happens when there is an emergency on a local level or even a state level with a hurricane, or let's say even a country has a like Fukushima, right? We're still battling with Fukushima. If people don't know what Fukushima was, do you guys know what Fukushima was?
No.
Okay, in 2011 there was I believe they call it a cyclone in Japan, and Japan hit that side, and basically a chain reaction happened that ended up leading to 4 reactors ended up having a complete new meltdown, and we're still dealing with that problem. Still, actually, don't even know how to solve that problem, and that's almost 10 years later. And that's a state problem, and actually an international problem, because it's dealing with multiple countries. We're now dealing with the same situation. We're dealing with a problem with multiple countries, the whole world all at once. So, what was your question, River?
Could the war stop as abruptly as it started?
Yes, the war can start. It can stop as abruptly as it started, and normally it will stop by certain areas putting another fire in certain areas to kind of calm down the situation. But because China is, I believe, man, I can't remember totally how big it is. I think it's 1.4 billion people, if I remember straight. So, because the initial start of the flame was China, 1.4 billion people, and there's 8 billion people in the entire world.
Yeah.
Because the initial flame started with them, I don't see the fire dying down until it gets to the whole world, and that's what's kind of happening. People in Philippines, all over the world, Italy. I mean, we're going into where the guard is being called in different states, but there's other places where the military's already been called in. They're locking down full facility, complete quarantine. I mean, way worse than what we have it. So it can just all die down by everyone just kind of gaining a grip on the situation. But it can also go from a yelling match to a fight to a hitting match really quickly. Like, how many times have you guys yelled at each other and then it went from a yelling to a hitting?
A lot.
I don't know. A lot.
Okay, it's the same situation, especially when now, every state has their own resources. Every household has their own weapons, their own guns, their own things that can instill fear and violence upon their neighbors, which neighbors can become communities, and those communities can become militia, and those militia can be state and private military. So, and then you even have the privatized military, like the old companies like Blackwater. Blackwater doesn't exist anymore, but similar companies like that as well, which can pop up, which can then basically further collapse the infrastructure of the United States and what they have in place to basically protect the U.S. citizens, which then you can have a fractioning of the United States into multiple minor United States, which that could be worst case scenario. That can happen. But that happens post-war, like after full out war. Full out war. You guys have any questions?
No.
Okay, so guys, this is what's to expect if worst case scenario. At the end of the day, a lot of these things are out of our control. That's why we're beginning to create structure around the household. Guys, in the last week, what have you guys done?
Helped around the house. We made a couple meals. We watched our siblings. I don't know, helping.
Okay. Helped, and we're just getting kind of, you guys created a schedule. We've had 3 classes so far in the last 3 days, each class being about an hour, talk about current events, bring your awareness up to the problem and worst case scenario. And we're already talking about homeschooling and getting homeschooling going because school might not come back around. So worst case scenario, I hope none of these things happen. But if they do happen, I hope these things don't happen. And if they don't happen, we're not going to in 6 months come back and my kids are going to be junked out on TV. No, they're going to have more discipline, more instruction. They're going to be a lot more helpful. When we give them back to the educational school system, they'll definitely be a little bit more mature because they're being trained and conditioned for the possibility of real life problems and changes that may occur if we cannot get our economy going within the next 30 to 45 days. So, Starla?
Please like this video, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, share, and comment down below what you thought about the video.
Thanks so much. Have a great day. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
It was fun.
Yeah.